Hare Krishna. So we are concluding today. Yesterday there was certain function and it got delayed. So sorry for that. And we'll try to cover the two subject. The 9 subject, individual growth is connected to collective growths. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, see every grantha, every scripture, in one sense, when I say every scripture, they have an integration of purpose. While maintaining that integration, particular Sanatan Dharma's grantha focus on particular contextual purposes. That has to be understood very clearly. They certainly do talk about everything what a grantha should have, but still they focus on something particular. Just like the Bhagavatam's focuses in regards to answering Parikshit Maharaj's question about departing from this world. But Bhagavad Gita focuses in regards to how to function in this world. Now, departing from this world and functioning in this world apparently look contradictory, but they are not contradictory. However much we may say, oh, ultimately everything, people will die, there is death to everybody. But even when we know that death will come, but still we know we have a life. This truth should never be forgotten. So the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to discover the journey of an individual. When the living entity, a jiva, now there are 3 things. One is sharira, then there is jiva, and there is atma. Now what is atma? Atma is one who is beyond the mana, buddhi and ahankar. Atma tattva has been experienced beyond this body. Right? And what is the body? Body is basically the anatomy. Right? Composed of earth, water, fire, air, ether. This is called as sharira. When this sharira is connected to mana, buddhi, ahankar, right? That mana, buddhi, ahankara with dwelling of the atma makes it jiva. What is jiva? Jiva is the atma dwelling carried by the mana, buddhi, ahankar to particular body. Who is the owner? Who is sitting in the vehicle? The person who is sitting in the vehicle is Atma. Who brings him to the vehicle? That is Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. And what is the vehicle made of? Vehicle is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. That which is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether, that is called as Sharira. Man, Buddhi, Ahankar is Jiva. And separating Man, Buddhi, Ahankar and the body, then that is pure Atma. Therefore, as long as we have the embodiment, as long as we have the body, till then the granthas, the shastras, the Sanatan Dharma Grantha Shastras also focus on how to function in this world. Because the functional reality is forever, may not be for one living entity, but functional reality is forever for this creation. The material nature is eternal. Living entities staying in this world, particular living entity staying in this world is not eternal. But the living entity staying here is eternal. Some living entities will be there. Just like a school, the particular student will not stay there forever. But the purpose of the school is that the children will always be there, not necessarily the same children, but the children will be there. Similarly, not the same living entities will be in this world, but the living entities always be there in this material world. Bhutva bhutva praliyate, appears and disappears. Therefore, when focusing on emancipation, when we say we focus on going back to the spiritual realm, but do not give any attention to creating a stable legacy in this world, is actually misconstrue of the understanding of Sanatana Dharma. Therefore, we go back to Bhagavad Gita and understand the background, that how Krishna has given so much emphasis in regards to individuality. The individuality of Bhagavad Gita is not the reckless individualism which is bereft of collective growth. And in the name of collective growth, the Gita does not destroy the individual living entity. Right? Unless a particular living entity exists, he or she cannot contribute to others. Because if you have not grown, you cannot contribute to others. Therefore, the simple principle of Gita is swadharma and loka sangraha. Right? We see in the 3rd chapter, Krishna explains sadrisham chestate swasya prakritir janavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraham kim karishyasi. What is that? Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. Now, this svabhava or our prakriti or our swadharma, nobody has the right to take it away. And it cannot be taken away as long as we have the mana buddhi ahankar, even after the destruction of the material body. If somebody kills the person, threatening him that if you want to behave the way you are behaving, you want to be a kshatriya, you want to be a brahmana, you want to be vaishya, you want to be a shudra, if you're I will kill you, they may kill the body, but you cannot take the nature of that living entity. Somewhere, some or other, that spirit will come out. Therefore, Krishna is asking this question, how will regression accomplish? In the 3rd chapter. And again, Krishna explains in the 3rd chapter, 335, I think, Shreyan swadharma viguna paro dharma bhayava. Swadharma nidanam shreya paro dharma bhayava. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's duty. Just see, nowadays this so-called very highly accomplished people, they talk about, you have to follow your passion. Some actress will come and they will talk about, how we followed, and people go crazy. Wow. This is spoken in the Sanatana Dharma scripture ever, forever, and for everybody. It is no question of celebration. It is not something a discovery. It is there since ages, so many places. And to such an extent, Krishna is telling Arjuna, even if death comes, that does not mean the death will come. But even what max will happen in understanding your swadharma, you may die. But death of the living entity in a physical self is much less harmful compared to dying for not discovering ourselves. So therefore again Krishna explains in the 18.40, there is no being existing either here, this is 18.40, or among the devatas in the higher planetary system, which is freed from the three modes of material nature. That means the different permutation and combination gives rise to particular nature. And no one, as long as this body is there, you cannot avoid that. 18.40. And again, Krishna explains again the 18.47. He says it is better to engage in one's own occupation. This shloka is repeated twice in the 3rd chapter, in the 18th chapter. Even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reaction. Now you cannot get better understanding than what is given by Krishna. He says, what is born out of your prakriti, what is born out of your nature, what is born out of your chart, what is born out of your psychological discovery, what is born out of your self-discovery, what is born out of your common sense, what is born out of your observation made by your teachers, your parents, your school, right? When you actually see the pattern will always be the same. And if you happen to be a soldier, your nature is to be a soldier, then if somebody says, no, don't become soldier, because soldier means you may lose life, soldier means it's not a peaceful life, soldier means it is not meant for practicing spirituality. So what we are exactly doing, it is very important to understand. We are challenging the Gita, we are challenging the tradition, we are challenging the science, we are challenging the entire parampara, we are challenging the entire Rishi parampara, and we are deciding what this person should do for his growth compared to what Krishna, Veda, Vedanta, Rishi parampara are telling us. No? Just think about it. And to make it very clear, what does Krishna say? That duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected. In fact, if somebody does his duty properly, if somebody does their duty properly, everybody is able to hear? Is there a problem?
Yeah, no problem. It's fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah. Thank you. So there is no reaction. This is when we say I trust in Krishna, then we have to trust in the words of Gita rather than giving our understanding of our love for Krishna. Again, here Krishna says, 18.47, every endeavor is covered by some fault. Just as fire is covered by smoke, therefore one should not give up the work born of his nature. O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault, right? People are recommended to read the 3rd chapter, 17th chapter, and the 18th chapter, right? Shloka by shloka. First read entire shlokas, then go back to the explanation and purport. Then you'll understand very clearly how much Krishna, there is no one in this world can tell you, do this and don't do this, unless they have helped us to discover our propensity, our svabhava, right? So if they help us to discover and engage us according to our nature, again simple, if there is a need for 50 teachers in the school, and unfortunately there are less teachers, so you cannot force someone who is a soldier to become a teacher. Prakriti has limitless resources in providing all kinds of facility for people to live stably. We have plenty of teachers. We have plenty of soldiers. We have plenty of priests. You know, we have plenty of everything. But what has happened? There are some people for their particular agenda. Good agenda or bad agenda does not matter. What do? They try to tell people, no, this is not good for you. This is what is expected of you to do. And it may work for some time. But then it goes against the very nature of that living entity. Therefore, even if somebody has to do somebody else's duty, that is called as dharma. Now, one can do those duties for some time, for an year, for a 2 year, like Arjuna did. He became a eunuch. But the Kshatriya spirit never went away from him. He was looking, waiting for that year to be completed. Bhima became a cook. Yudhishthira Maharaj advisor. Nakula and Sahadev were caring for the cattle, the cows and the horses. But it was a time-bound dharma, circumstantial duties. But if that becomes your life, you need to come back to this world again to deal with your propensity. Nigraham kim karishyasi. Right? These are the words of Krishna. And therefore, what does Prakriti, what does the Dharma Shastra say? He is telling Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna in that sense. Now, Arjuna did not have the problem about his discovery. He was a Kshatriya. He fought many battles. And just by becoming a good Kshatriya, he naturally contributed to the society. It's very interesting. I have spoken this before also. People ask this question always. How come the Pandavas and the Kauravas studied in the same Gurukul, the Gurukul of Dronacharya? And how come the Pandavas became dharmic and the Kauravas became adharmic? You know why? So, Dronacharya, there is a clear explanation in the Mahabharata. Dhritarashtra asking this question to Sanjay, saying that let Dronacharya focus only on the profession of the Kauravas and Pandavas. Let him not deal with their sanskaras and character and values. Yes, Dronacharya appreciated Arjuna, but he did not try to give them the foundational value of your swadharma should be used for the growth of yourself and the samaj. He never said that. The samskaras which Duryodhan brought from his parents, the Pandavas brought the samskaras from their parents that continue to flourish rather than not watering the dirty water to a bad tree of Duryodhan. Dhritarashtra basically facilitated. His swadharma was growing, his profession was growing, but his guna was not growing. There are two things. One is Kshatriya profession and one is the Kshatriya character. There is a Brahmanical profession and there is a Brahmanical character. There is Vaishya Vritti and there is a Vaishya Manasikata. There is a mentality. One can have a very good skill in chanting the mantras, performing all kinds of puja, paurohitya, right? Those activities are Brahmanical, that is karma. But the guna could be hardcore capitalistic. It's very interesting, hardcore capitalistic. A Kshatriya may be very good in shooting, getting a gold medal in the Olympic Games, occupying the post of a commander, but may not have the spirit of a Kshatriya. The word Kshatriya is not only skill-centric, the word Kshatriya is also protection-centric. Kshat, wherever they see trouble, they are willing to go and protect. Now, this was the major difference between Pandavas and the Kauravas. Duryodhana had the skill of a Kshatriya. He was a very good, valorous person. He had some spirit of a Kshatriya. He was large-hearted when it came to his own people. Right? He would bestow limitless blessings to his subordinates. But it is time-bound and very, very limited to those who are very closely connected to him. But the wrong side of Kshatriyatva was the valor made him cruel. He was not sensitive to the needs of the people. He was very selfish. He used his sahas. He's like a gangster who are well trained in shooting, but they're causing harm to the society. But even these gangsters, sometimes they're charitable. They'll give the money, oh, take this. Right? But largely, what do? They're causing harm to the society. On the other hand, Kshatriyas like Pandavas, like they will respond even to somebody who has lost his cows, wherein Arjuna might have to spend 12 years in the forest, away from his family, and just married to Draupadi, because he came to a private place where Yudhishthira Maharaj was with Draupadi, and as the rule was, he came to disturb their privacy and went to the forest for 2 years. So therefore, do not only see the external profession of a Kshatriya, but his spirit also has to be there. So when the spirit and the form are together, then he is called as a harmonized Brahmana, harmonized Kshatriya. The Pakistani Islamic terrorist, they have the valor, but the spirit is very destructive. Or within the country, where the administration, the police department, right? What happened in Maharashtra? They themselves become extortionists. If they become extortionists, scaring people if you don't give hafta. So what happened? They have the position of a police. They are in the Department of Protection, but rather than giving protection, they're basically scaring the society. That is called as Rakshasi Vritti. We have discussed this before. Bhagavad Gita doesn't focus so much on people who are atheist. The Bhagavad Gita focuses on people who are demonic. Because atheistic person, he is only focusing on his atheism. And there are many good atheistic people, humanitarian atheistic people. They contribute to the growth of the society, at least on the level of humanitarianism. But those who are practicing religion, some kind of superficial religion, because of greed, because of arrogance, because of haughtiness, like Duryodhana and others, many more like that, they will go to the temple, they will do big puja also, they will offer a big crown for Balaji costing 100 crores, right? But what are they doing? They have a demonic nature in regards to others. So therefore, if we do not understand this distinction, even a Brahmana can be contaminated. Yesterday, we were in one ceremony for one great personality, and one person who was a publisher of his books, he was saying in Dharwad. Dharwad in Karnataka was a land of intellectual people. And there was one scholar, right? He had a personal problem with another scholar called as Dara Bendre, a famous name, wrote beautiful poetry, literature. He had such an envy for him, and his Dara Bendre focused on the concept of the how life is centered around on the Vedic system, how dharma is everywhere. So seeing the growth of this Dara Bendre, because of the personal enmity, this man, he was a big scholar too, famous name. He focused all his anger towards what Dara Bendre was representing. And he spoke against Bhagavad Gita. He spoke against all the Vedas. He spoke against all the Yagyas. Just like the political parties, unfortunately, for winning the election, they're willing to compromise with the security of the country. Right? Just see, so this is not Kshatriyatva. This is not Brahmanatva. You may know how to chant mantras, but the tendency is Rakshasi Vritti. And Krishna in the 17th chapter, he gave an entire chapter discussing about Rakshasi Vritti. And what does he say? They perform yagyas, at least superficially. And when they are performing yagya, like Duryodhan performed the Vaishnava yagya, Ravan wrote a treaty on astrology. The Shiva Tandava Stotra, the famous Tandava Stotra, is compiled by Ravan. We can chant it. Right? The compilation is beautiful, but the compiler is a nasty guy. So this we have to understand very clearly, that our swadharma is not itself is wrong. But how do we use that swadharma? Therefore, what Krishna is talking about? Krishna is talking about, our swadharma becoming loka sangraha, uniting the people. So therefore, the student life is all about selfishness. If the students are used by the teachers as a free laborers, right? When the brahmachari student become construction workers, if the brahmachari students become managers in the school, right? The teachers, they take them to build his house, to bring all in the village school. Sometimes this would happen, right? Because the children from all background, they would go to school, and the teacher would say, okay, I got 40 students. So they would send them to bring pan. They would send them to bring some, grocery for their family. They would send their children to go and clean the house also. So if the student is spending more time in working instead of learning, then that act of a teacher is abuse and exploitation, right? And that cannot be allowed. Therefore, Krishna here makes it very, very clear that when you perform your duties trained by teacher, more like Daumya Rishi rather than Dronacharya, then your skills, your character, your growth, your ambition, your prosperity is not in conflict with the society. Therefore, Narad Muni told this to Yudhishthir Maharaj. He said, earn your prosperity, enjoy your prosperity, and share your prosperity. The part of enjoyment is sharing also. We have discussed this many times. The marriage ceremonies, right? When people organize marriage, nowadays the event has become more important than the journey of being in the marriage. Some father who spent few hundred crore rupees when his daughter got divorced, he was trying to pacify, at least we had a great marriage. best of the film actresses came. At least we had a fun. He was trying to pacify her. Just imagine what kind of intelligence people have. And then just as a ritual, you do little bit. If they are spending 300 crore rupees, 30 crore rupees, 5 crore rupees, right? There is no harm in celebrating marriage gorgeously because it's one of the most important samskaras. But part of that samskaras, you lit up the life of few other people also. How can your daughter, how can your son are so self-obsessed about their marriage and not thinking about others? So that becomes the character of Duryodhana. That marriage has the rituals of the Sanatan Dharma, but the character of the Rakshasas. Right? It is very important to understand. So therefore, the 4 personalities, and based upon these 4 personalities, there are multifarious professions. What is that? There is knowledge expansion, which is called as overcoming the illusion. And there is a protection expansion, that is overcoming intrusion. And there is expansion of industries, entrepreneurship. And the 4th one is overcoming indolence. Brahmana removes agyan, ignorance. Kshatriya removes araksha, he removes fear. Vaishya removes abhav, limitations. And Shudra removes alasya, indolence. Now just see, each one of them are contributing by becoming deeper in their own profession. Right? However knowledge a Brahmana may have, he is removing the ignorance. It is explained. There is dharma pragya and there is dharma kriya. Dharma pragya is given by Brahmana, but dharma kriya is protected by Kshatriya, executed by a Shudra, and resources are provided by Vaishya. So how can there be a isolated amongst these 4? It is not possible only. When a Brahmana tells you to perform a ritual, what is the ritual? Okay, in the marriage you have to perform this ceremony. So in that ceremony, when the date is given, the muhurta is given, you need a flower. Does a Brahmana grow a flower? No, Vaishya grows a flower. Does a Vaishya sell it? No, the Vanija sells it. Alright, you need a flower. Does the Brahmana make a flower garland? No, there are different class of people who make flower garland. Then you need a cloth. Who makes the cloth? Does a Brahmana make cloth? No, Nekara makes cloth. Right? There are different community who make a cloth. And this is such a common sense. A bride and bridegroom spend 100 times more money in stitching the cloth than giving the Brahmana as a dakshina. And who targets them? So if you call somebody in Sangeet, whom do you call? You call singers. From the Varnashram point of view, they are Shudras. And how much they charge money? More than your cloth also. Right? So just see how the brain of people have gone crazy in regards to dismantling. Somebody chants the mantras, somebody performs the marriage and focusing on ye phukad ka khata hai, paisa lekar jata. Right? So when this kind of isolated slander is done, the society does not grow because it is conflicting with each other. So allowing people to grow in their own field, when they go deeper, just like a banyan tree, right? A banyan tree, the nature of banyan tree, or nature of a mango tree, or nature of a jamul tree, as much they go deeper into the soil, they become wider in providing fruits and shelter. You don't have to come to the root of a tree. You stay away from a tree also, the fruits are falling, the dry sticks are falling, right? It is providing wood, it is providing fruits, it is providing flowers, it is providing shelter, it is providing oxygen, it is providing a place for meditation. Everybody gets to sit on that tree because it is expansive. But if there is a papaya tree or a bamboo tree, it has a contribution also, but there is a limited contribution. Therefore, it is very important to understand that these people grow and help others grow. Therefore, the Sanatan Dharma believes in swatantrata. We will discuss that. That's the last subject. But that swatantrata, that freedom is connected to interdependence. As many times we have discussed, freedom without responsibility makes one reckless, and responsibility without creativity makes one dry. There is no way to contribute. Somebody wrote today that imitation is nothing but suicide. It is so sad when you ask, what do you want to be? I want to be like Sachin Tendulkar. I want to be like Virat Kohli. I want to be like Bachchan. Are Bhagwan ne, the Lord has given you something much greater than trying to be them. He has given, full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality. What is this? It's an insult to the living entity to imitate somebody, right? I have come to a town where people celebrating the departure, not mourning the departure of a film actor. Good person, but you do not deserve to give so much of attention at the cost of losing your identity. Recently, one educationalist, he was telling teachers, he said, my dear teachers, he said, education is not specifically connected to being absorbed in children alone. He said, don't get lost in school. Don't get lost in school, because school is simply one small aspect of your education, right? Absorption, samadhi, is different from khojana. Samadhi is different. Absorption is different from getting lost. Absorption does not make you get lost. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya would be in three kinds of meditation, semi-conscious, then completely conscious, and completely in samadhi, right? In the separation of the Lord. But either of these conditions, whether he was externally conscious, semi-conscious, or completely conscious of God, having no connection to the external world, even in that conditional, the foundational principle of cooperation and service would never get diluted. When one of his servants, Shankar Pandit, would be guarding to see that he's been cared nicely, in the middle of the night he would go to sleep. But natural, you are supposed to sleep in the night. And Lord Chaitanya, seeing that he's sleeping in the middle of the night, he would take chaddar. When his separation is in separation of Krishna, he would go and cover with a chaddar. Therefore, absorption does not make you get lost. Dhyana, the yoga, the dharma, has a natural consequences of contribution. If it is natural and organic, again, Parikshit Maharaj in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, he has got 7 days left. right? And Parikshit is hearing in the 5th canto. That means at least 2 to 3 days have gone. Then what happened? He was listening about the heavenly planets. He was listening about the hellish planet. When he heard about the hellish planet, did he care about hellish planet? Because he was not going there. He had practiced his spirituality so nicely, he would not go there. But after hearing about the hellish planet, he raised this question to Sukadeva Goswami: is there any way for them to be delivered? All right. Sometimes we say charity means only giving spiritual knowledge. No, charity means giving what you have. If you have money, that is what you give. If you have knowledge, that is what you give. If you have power to protect, that is what you give. You have something artwork to show, that is what you give. Every person according to his propensity will provide. All right. If you try to do something else which is not your capacity, then what will happen? One will not be able to contribute. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj, being a king, he couldn't handle the suffering of people. In his 60 years of Raja as a kingdom, he would go around looking for culprits to punish them. He would go around for resources providing to his people. It is explained the administrators, the Raja and the minister, in the morning when they get up. Very interesting, Chanakya writes. When they get up in the morning hours, first thing they have to see is people who are handicapped. They have to see people who are less privileged. They have to see people who are hungry and thirsty. Right? Of course, they have done all their, the Bandis, the Brahmanas, they have chanted. When they see the society, the first thing they see them. Why do they see them? To understand that I have great work to do. I have got more work to do. There is no lethargy and there is no complacency. What is the Raja? The word Raja has the power to rule, and also Raja means Ranjati iti praja Raja. One who is entertaining the praja is called as Raja. Right? So therefore, growth and giving are interconnected. You can only give when you are growing. So therefore, valor and valuing others' life is a Kshatriya. There is a harmony between the feminine and masculine quality. The feminine quality represents the character, and the masculine quality represents skills. Like one psychologist was saying, however much people may try, every person should be doing everything. How stupid the sociologists and social people speak. They want to create equality based upon everybody should be able to do everything. That totally defeats the purpose of human existence. It is not possible only. Now also today, if you see the statistics, it is but natural that men are more engineers. Why? Because it is but natural for men to think about things. Right? And you'll always see there are large number of nurses who are females. Why? Because they naturally think about people, caring. It is statistically proven. Then if you say, no, this is unfair, why men also should be nurses? There are, it is not that they are not there. But the point is, when you try to create activism based upon numbers, this is unfair, then the society becomes adharmic. It becomes destructive and it doesn't work only. So therefore, just see how Krishna is so seamlessly is speaking to Arjuna in the 3rd chapter, in the 4th chapter, in the 16th chapter, in the 17th chapter, in the 18th chapter about these principles, and therefore what he has done, he has integrated these 4 principles: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. If you understand dharma, artha, kama, moksha, dharma is developing the values. It is brahmanatva. It is developing that feminine qualities. And Artha is developing professional qualities based upon that values. Dharma and Artha. And the third principle, what is Kama? That when you develop some resources, you become happy. You can't avoid that. It is no question, however deeply person may be involved in spirituality, but when he sees somebody accomplish who are very close to them, it is but natural they will also celebrate. The difference between their timing of celebration and the celebration of ordinary people are intoxicated by the celebration, but the evolved people will celebrate as much it is required, but they will celebrate. There is no question I'm trying to be, no, I don't care. I'm not into this kind of thing. They are fake and should understand, they're simply faking. Recently, one person was telling, right, he's a psychologist plus an astrologer. He was talking to somebody, sincere. Oh, there are troubles. They said, no, there are no troubles. No, there are troubles. See, these are the troubles. Accept the troubles as a trouble. Don't deny them. They are not being trouble. Right? First, accept the trouble as trouble. And then how to deal with those troubles, they are different things. When you deny the trouble, they will multiply. Because it is unreal. That we discussed in the very first day only. Duality, Sukha and Dukha, victory and defeat. Lord Krishna told this to Uddhav in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Now again, one cannot be more smarter than Krishna. What does he say? He said, Uddhav, even the most advanced soul, when he is insulted by the most ordinary people, it hurts. And then he explained the story of Avanti Brahman. You read in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam also, Jad Bharat and Rahugun. What made Jad Bharat open his mouth and speak to Rahugun? Because Rahugun insulted Jad Bharat. This is Shukadeva Goswami speaks. For the slight movement, Jad Bharat felt offended. When I read that part in the Bhagavatam, I said, wow, that is so good to hear. Because Jad Bharat is not presented as a dead stone. Right? He's less dramatizing his pain. Rather, he's not dramatizing his pain. But at the same time, he's not dramatizing as if he's a very self-realized soul. There is no pain only to him. Because wherever there is pain, that gives rise to empathy from others. And we need that empathy from others. Right? So therefore, dharma, artha, kama. Kama gives rise to pleasure. And kama gives rise to pain also. Very simple. When you want to enjoy, there is all potential of losing also. That is what makes life dynamic and exciting. As much as you are willing to take risk. What is the greatest risk? The greatest risk are three things. Losing money, losing one's honor, and losing one's life. ये तीन ही चीज होता है. People fear about losing their honor. Nowadays, their number is becoming less and less. People fear losing their resources, and people fear losing their life. Right? If these three things are handled as much as possible, then the gains are so limitless. Right? Again, simple. If you are on the ground playing a cricket match, right? More than any other sports, in one sense, even that's a slow sports, if you understand a fast bowler when he's bowling, it's a thick ball. There is a greater chances of injury. 150 kilometers per hour, 140 kilometers per hour. And suddenly ball bounces in a different way. There are so many people who have lost their life. If somebody does not have the courage and willingness to take that risk, that thoda lag sakta hai, thoda zyada lag sakta hai, I may get hurt badly. Unless they are willing to take that, there is no question of making a century. That is dharma, artha, kama, right? And when we go through the pain and excitement, and we realize that I should not enjoy or I should not suffer more than it deserves based upon the values what we have developed, the resources what we have collected, the happiness or distress what we have experienced through that artha and dharma, through kama, and then comes the ideology of philosophy and yoga, the practice of spirituality. What does it do? That gives rise to moksha, freedom from suffering, freedom from happiness also. Freedom from happiness and suffering doesn't mean that there is no freedom, there is no happiness and there is no distress. Rather, the happiness and distress, they are just for that moment. And for some, that moment could be 10 minutes, according to the event, like the mourning period, right? It is for 13 days, right? So therefore, when there is an integration of life, where self-growth is given, and unfortunately, most of the places, whether it is an educational institution or a spiritual institution, we might focus on our ultimate goal of life. But unfortunately, we do not focus on the growth of people in regards to how to stay in this world, how to understand their nature and how to engage their nature. And therefore, when that is done properly on 3 levels, the physical level, subtle level, and then on the spiritual level, the Adi Daivika level, Adi Bhautika level, and Adhyatmic level. So what does it do? It helps us to experience integrated growth. The body is fit. The mana, buddhi, ahankar is moving very swiftly, and Atma, through that journey, eventually achieves what? Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. And then such a person, forget about surrendering to God. Here Krishna is saying very interestingly, if you engage in your swadharma properly, no sin occurs to you. In one sense, Krishna repeating Sarva Dharman to Arjuna is to reconfirm what he has heard, everything, along with adding an affectional feeling for Arjuna. Nowhere Krishna is told that Swadharma will give rise to sin for you. So therefore, what is it doing? We read that verse. No sin occurs in the 18th chapter. And to reconfirm, now you still have a doubt that if you perform your professional duties with the dharmic values, you will not experience any sin, but you still doubt me, Arjuna. So then I promise you as a personal friend, as my devotee, that you give up this fearing, this fear of I am the doer and I'm experiencing the consequences. He said, give up all that. Sarva dharman paridhyachya mamekam sharanam vraja. That is not meaning that you give up your duties. You give up the controllership. You give up the fear of the consequences. Varnashram dharma will also free you from sin, and Bhagavad dharma with the special flavor of affection, that will also help you to overcome. So there is no contradiction between what Krishna had spoken up until now and what is spoke in the conclusion. So therefore, this subject of Swadharma and Loka Sangraha, in conclusion, in essence, that character and skill, when they are combined, that becomes karma and guna. When karma and guna are combined, you become like Arjuna. When karma is combined with durguna, that becomes Duryodhana. and karma and assumption that I have good gunas, but there are durgunas only, then that creates karanas, right? And they become very famous, unfortunately. That is the modern society with so many authors who so-called understanding the Mahabharata and Ramayana, they end up in, unfortunately, misunderstanding between the two, right? So therefore, our constitutional nature, being the servant of God, being part of the Brahman, the spark, and our conditional nature, being Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmana, whatever, adding that value and dealing with our circumstantial nature. Sometime a teacher is becoming a warrior, sometime warrior becoming a teacher, but it is not forever. That is just for some contextual situation. They would go back to their conditional nature while focusing on their constitutional nature. In this way, by doing this only, they will certainly achieve perfection while experiencing their profession and their character. And where do they go? Spiritual world. When do they go? That becomes immaterial, because they are only focusing on the journey properly. And if they do the journey properly, if not today, sometime they will achieve perfection, but they're happy seeing perfection in journey itself. Thank you for this talk on the 9th one. If you have any question, we will take, and then we'll take the next topic of freedom is not privilege, not gift, but character of everyone.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Just a minute. So we have a question by Divyantiya Prabhu. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hare Krishna. Dandapranam Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we hear from Bhagavatam, when we read Bhagavatam, the second chapter speaks about elevating oneself from Tamoguna to Satoguna. And also in 11th canto also we hear about practicing things which are in mode of goodness. So then how we at the same time we also in Bhagavatam we hear about conversation between Vyasadeva and Narad Muni, where Vyasadeva is chastising Narad Muni chastising Vyasadeva about why he has written other scripture than Bhagavatam. Then how we reconcile all these three things?
There is no confusion only, because society requires 3 gunas and personal growth requires to transcend these 3 gunas. The society for the growth, unless there is a stable situation, nobody can practice that spirituality. And the purpose of that stable situation is to transcend that stability also and go back to the Atma Sakshatkar, right? So dharma requires the guna sattva, rajo and tamo, because without rajo, sattva and tamo, protection, growth will not happen only, and sleep will also not happen. So the purpose of an individual is to transcend all the 3 modes of material nature. So that is called as Vyakti. But Samaja to function, there is no mukti for Samaj. There is mukti for only Vyakti. The Samaj, the society is not only a people. Society is, it's a people, it is creation, it is construction, it is transaction, it is resources, right? So there is no mukti for Prakriti. There is mukti for Jiva. So what Shukadeva Goswami is telling to Parikshit Maharaj, what Narad Muni is telling to Parikshit Maharaj, or Narad Muni is speaking to our Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva had focused so much on discussing about growth of the society, but he had not discussed so much about a living entity's relationship with Prakriti and Purusha. So absolutely there cannot be any conflict in this regard. Right? When
Yes,
you
sir.
are opening a society, then why you have to register? Why you have to focus on this has to be like this only, this has to be registered like this only? Why? What is the need of that? That is for the society to function properly. But the purpose of functioning society properly, for you to get the facility to transcend. But when you are transcending three modes of material nature, you cannot condemn the sattva guna, rajo guna. You cannot condemn the society, because that very society facilitated your mukti. If that is not there, then there will be a pandemic. And therefore, Krishna comes not for individual growth alone. He comes for the growth of society. So there should be no confusion in this regard. Dharma is external, Shraddha is internal.
Thank you.
Does
Thank
it
you.
make sense?
Yes, Guruji. It's made clear about
Thank
mukti
you
for
very much.
society and mukti for individual.
Thank you very much. Shriramji, can you please ask your question?
Thank you. Thank you, Guruji. Just interconnecting a lot of what you were saying, and when you were speaking about the mana, buddhi, and the ahankar, is that a function of the memory the body carries in a certain sense, and hence, does the body in that sense become our greatest stumbling block and also our greatest tool, because we are supposed to be the most evolved species in a certain sense? So the first question then is one around, can mana, buddhi, and ahankar also be a function of the body? And in us not using the body in the manner that we can, knowing very well that we are the most evolved species, can that also the biggest tool or the greatest gift, can that also become the greatest bane? That's one. The second question that then comes is, and if the mana, buddhi, and the ahankar is also beyond the memory that the body has, how does one really overcome that part of your memory to attain salvation?
It's again, it is explained only for tarka, only for logic, only for philosophy. These are actually separated: man, buddhi, ahankar, sharira, earth, water, fire, air, ether. But on a functional reality, they are integrated. When you define lemon juice, when you say lemon juice, when you talk about the recipe, you say there is salt, there is lemon, there is sugar, there is elaichi, there is water, there are ice cubes, and then you offer it in a nice glass with certain kesher also. So, but when you're experiencing the lemon juice, all the ingredients are integrated. Otherwise, there is no lemon juice only. So when we talk about living entity, living entity is like a lemon juice. But what are the ingredients involved in that? Then we say there is man, buddhi, ahankar, there is earth, water, fire, air, ether, then there is kala, then there are three modes of material nature, then there is atma. All this put together is called as jiva. Right? This is the functioning reality. You function as a jiva, but you define that jiva with what are the ingredients involved. Does it make sense? In this is the first part. So when we understand this, then we realize even the physical ahar, this is what Krishna is so unique. When he says yukta ahara, yukta vihara, yukta chestasu karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasa yoga bhavati dukkha. He's talking about something which is, when you see a nice food, fragrant food. So the man, buddhi, ahankar says, "Are Maharaj, khub khao." But Sharira says, "Nahi Baba, you want to eat so much, but my capacity is this much." So then the man, buddhi, ahankar cooperates with the capacity of the belly. Right? So when they cooperate with each other, so there is a discipline, at the same time there is enjoyment. But if there's a conflict between the body and the man, buddhi, ahankar, so there is enjoyment at the cost of going to the doctor next day. And the doctor telling next 4 days you'll be eating only, some raw sabji or patla khichdi. right? So therefore, there is no functional isolation in this regard. It's only for explanation. Sankhya is for explanation. Yoga is for integration. So when we integrate our life in such a way, like we discussed about that aspect of grace, when that grace befall upon us, and that the factor of grace is separating our endeavor and our success. And that grace comes, how it happens, when it happens, that is none of my business. My business, your business is to, again, nishkam karma. Even in regards to emancipation, we talk about niskama karma in regards to ordinary activity, and suddenly we say, in this very life, I need to go back to the spiritual world. It doesn't make any sensible reality. That is none of my business. I keep doing my work, and you eventually realize you have scored 60 plus runs. Ever your statistics is 60 plus, 50 plus, and that itself is a big deal. And you have a record also in your own record. You'll find whether it is Sachin Tendulkar or Donald Broadbent, they also have gone out for a golden duck. But golden duck does not define their personality. Therefore, certain attachment, certain limitations, certain faltering does not stop your journey. That should not become a problem for us to move forward, right? It is very important. So we cannot afford to be so much of guilty, and we cannot afford to be so much of shameless. So this is the beauty of Gita, and therefore Arjuna, when he asked that question in the 3rd chapter, because when you are operating on ahankar, that I have to operate on my swadharma, there is a tendency to become isolated and self-centered, right? So therefore Krishna says, prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudata kartamiti mannate. Jiva thinks that he is the doer, but prakriti is facilitating him to do. And in the 6th chapter again, Krishna says, while practicing your yoga, even if there is a faltering, there is no problem. If not in this lifetime, next lifetime, if you fail in this class, you have an 80 KT carry forward. There are people, they are almost on the level of shamelessness, but at least they don't mind. Okay, I failed 3 semesters. The first year ka 2 subject hai, second year ka 3 subject hai, third year ka 4 subject hai, and the 4th year they are appearing for all the exam as if they are Bhagirath, and sometimes they pass also. Medical doctor, sometimes 10 years. I remember one doctor, he had become almost like 45 years. I still remember his face. I seen him as a student, small boy. After 10 year or 12 year, he completed a medical degree. What a smile on his face. He came to give pedas to us. And uske andar, when I see from Gita's perspective, I said, wow, he had to have some shamelessness, but more than shamelessness, he had the hope, kabhi na kabhi main pass karunga. Right? But now, unfortunately, nowadays parents, and the kids also, they are made to believe that if you miss this now, everything will be gone. There is nothing gone. Lifetimes have gone. We have spent millions of lifetime loitering. Now you become so conscious. Yes, one should be alert. Muhurta, again, the concept of muhurta is that you marry on particular muhurta. But at the same time, along with that concept of muhurta, there is eternality also. Balancing between the right timing and eternality. So therefore, Sanatana Dharma practice become extremely dynamic, exciting, flavored with some anxiety, because that is part of the game.
Correct. Thank you, Guruji. And maybe, and I don't mean to sort of eat into the time for the next class, but the only follow-on question that came was, is embodied beings, we function a lot on memory in a certain sense, which leads to a certain karma that we collect through our lives. As disembodied beings, when death happens, is there a certain memory that we carry, and is it important for us to also be aware of that certain level?
That is what man buddhi ahankar is. What is the carrier for memory? Mind is nothing but go down of our desires and our impressions. And ahankar identifies with that, and intelligence operates based upon that. And that's how they receive a particular type of body also. So therefore, that's what I said, lemon juice in integration are one and the same. In explanation, they are different. You get a particular kind of body. The man, buddhi, ahankar gives you specific kind of body, specific kind of vatavaran, the kshetra, the field also, right? It's a very interesting. So therefore, as much as we may say, oh, body has nothing to do, no, body has so much to do with your man, buddhi and ahankar.
Beautiful.
Like if you're collecting the charanamrit, where do you collect charanamrit? You don't collect charanamrit, you don't collect charanamrit in a garbage can. No, the garbage can is our body. And charanamrit is like our man, buddhi, ahankar. Depending on whether it is good, right? Then what will you do? That charanamrit will be placed in a nice container. So if the gutter ka pani kidhar dalenge hum log? The sewage water will not be placed in a kalash. So as much as man, buddhi, ahankar is of the essence in regards to receiving next parents, the parents represent the kshetra also. Mangoes, they are seeds, but they will not grow in a desert. The khajur will grow. So therefore, yes, the body is important. The man, buddhi, ahankar is important. And for functioning, the identity, atma, is also important.
And hence, how we deal with it in an embodied state also defines to a huge extent what happens in a disembodied state.
Yes, so therefore, when we have a body also, children may not be given knowledge, but through food and environment, you can change their character also.
Beautiful.
No, it's so interesting.
Beautiful.
And this is not possible in Western psychology. In Western psychology, they may give affirmation and they may give counseling. But the Vedic psychology, it talks about psychology in regards to counseling. It talks about transformation through food and talks about transformation through sadhana also. And all level, they do that. And that is what Krishna says, yukta hara, yukta vihara. We'll take one or two questions, then we'll go to the next subject.
So,
yes.
Ganesh, can you please ask the question?
Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, actually, I'm not so talented to realize what is my specific duty or to know my own nature, swadharma, I mean, Prabhu. So I would sometimes ask senior devotees, and I'll get that whatever is assigned to us as services, authority, whatever says, that would become swadharma in this stage, because there is no varnashrama sadharma. But I sincerely feel that sometimes I had inclination to read Shastra and sometimes to fight against some kind of ills that will happen in the society. So it's a kind of a mix, even if I try to understand what is my swadharma, Prabhu. So can you help me out in...
so then tell them, reject Bhagavad Gita. Why you teach Bhagavad Gita then? Right, this is all spoken by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, no? If they say whatever is assigned to you, that is your swadharma, then we have to reject Bhagavad Gita. What is the point in distributing Bhagavad Gita and teaching Bhagavad Gita? So that is the point, is those who are telling that they are managers, they are not teachers. The purpose of a teacher is to help you find out your swadharma rather than get things done from you. Yes, there is that emergency duties are there, that has to be done, no doubt. But they should tell, okay, look, this is not my field of helping you to understand your swadharma, but I have 4 pots to be cleaned, so please clean them. You have to raise some funds, we need some money, bring that money, because that is what we need. That is absolutely all right, that is allowed today. But to say this is your swadharma because there is no varnashram dharma in Kali Yuga, that is basically slandering Krishna and Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Bhagavatam also. There are hundreds of verses in the Bhagavatam. There are hundreds of stories of people practicing their swadharma and deeply absorbed in loving Krishna. The gopis of Vrindavan, they did not become gurus. Krishna sent them back to their respective homes to become gopis only. Arjuna sarva dharman parityaja, but went back to be a warrior also, right? So therefore, there should not be such stupid idea even to hear also. These questions should not be asked, and this answer should not be entertained. You should be able to tell me what duty you have to do, I will do that, but still I need to look for my swadharma. बर्तन साफ करना मैं कर लूंगा, पैसा लाना मैं लेकर आऊंगा, right? But this is different, that is needed, but this is separate. We should not undermine the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. That's very risky and dangerous.
Can you give, yes, Prabhu. Yeah, can you give some tips for us to discover that swadharma, Prabhu? Because
that will be a separate subject matter, only focusing on that. Because discovering swadharma cannot be discussed in a group. We are discussing about the concept of swadharma. To discovering swadharma, there are different methodologies. Through psychology, through astrology, through common sense, through your gotra, through your the Jyotish Shastra, all that is required, and that helps you to at least understand who you are and understand where are you standing. Right? There is no conflict in this too. There is absolutely, yugas don't change anything. In Satya Yuga also, there was mixed marriages. Why would Shastra like Manu Samhita, Mahabharata, Ramayana talk about Anuloma and Pratiloma Vivaha? That means contamination, Dvandva, is an eternal reality. It is not centered around Yuga. There was Rakshasas in Satya Yuga, and there are Rakshasas in Kali Yuga. There were devotees, Bhaktas in Satya Yuga. There are Bhaktas are now also. So Sura is an eternal reality. There are certain dynamics of yugas, but the foundational principle does not change. It will not change because the creation operates on certain pattern, an eternal pattern. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Venu will ask Prabhu. Can you please ask your question?
Krishna Prabhu, I have one question. So when in the beginning of the class you were mentioning that Bhagavatam generally talks about the art of living, but we also see that many shlokas, even Parikshit Maharaj also asked, how can a person, what is the duty of a person who is living also, like not only living? So that is the question. So, and also when you are talking about swadharma, why generally our acharyas or our Guru Parampara, they don't integrate this concept of swadharma or engagement according to swadharma in our life, or as part of sadhana or part of lifestyle? Generally it is not talked about. And related to that, I also had some experience interacting with some astrologers, but what they say does not actually correspond to the reality that is going on in my life. So in this, so the same question that previous devotee asked, like how to discover swadharma, and also why it is not part of teachings of acharyas, and yeah, that is what my question is.
In the Bhagavatam, as I said, the focus, I said in the beginning, Gita also is integrated with all the scripture in giving the purpose of life, but they also emphasize on the particular purpose of that text. So Bhagavatam has Gita in it in regards to certain principles, but the focus by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj to help him go back to the spiritual realm. And Bhagavad Gita does talk about Antakalecha Mameva, but the focus of Bhagavad Gita is helping Arjuna to perform his duties. If you see Upanishad also, there is no conflict in the Shastra. Why would they conflict? How can there be a conflict? There is an integration, but we have to see what is the context and where I want to learn what I want to learn. Why did Acharyas did not read the works of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, read the works of one of the contemporary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, called as Krishnadas, when he was asked to write? One of our devotee friend has done PhD on that. When you're focusing on Roop Sanatan Goswami at that time, the Varnashram dharma was not at all disturbed as much as it is disturbed last 200 years. There was no need. That was the responsibility of the family. Why would they spend their time writing on these things, right? They focused on giving you the essential principle of Swarupa Dharma, your constitutional nature. But now today, you need to give the constitutional nature, you have to give the conditional nature, and you have to give the circumstantial nature also. Sometimes, many people don't want to leave India. They want to stay. But there is a financial limitations, right? So that is the circumstantial, just like Arjuna had to go to Swarga to learn. Or the parents, the Devayani and Kacha. Kacha was a son of a Brahaspati, but they had something lacking which was there with the Rakshasas. They went there. So therefore, very dynamic. We cannot either isolate again our Acharya saying, oh, they did not give, therefore why should I? No, Acharya lives in Vrindavan in a very small hut without earning anything. Right? And people are earning in dollar and saying, our acharyas did not give while driving on BMW, right? And having Sangeet where, dancing on Tabanga. That is allowed. Going and playing cricket match with a leather ball. What kind of varnashram is that? We just played with some children. So let us not try to play around with words. That will not help us. Because again, why are you distributing Bhagavad Gita? Krishna is the original Acharya. Gita is all about Varna Dharma only. And even but Krishna told him Sarva Dharman, again, that's a repeated logic. But Sarva Dharman, after Sarva Dharman, what happened to Arjuna? Did he sit and chant like Haridas Thakur? No, he took his weapons. He fought the battle on the Kurukshetra. So don't stop Sarva Dharman and say, okay, this is done. Now there is Mahabharata where Arjuna fought also. We cannot separate Gita from the Mahabharata. We cannot separate Bhagavad from Gita. We cannot take away Gita in the Bhagavad, and we cannot take the spirit of the Bhagavad in the Bhagavad Gita also. But the emphasis is very clear. Arjuna, we have to understand the context, no? The context is very clear. Parikshit is about to die. And Arjuna was dead in regards to his duty. So that is a contextual purpose, and there is an ultimate purpose. So Bhagavatam is highest because in regards to mukti, it gives the ultimate purpose of life. But that does not cancel the contribution of Bhagavad Gita in regards to society and dharma. Dharma is external and Shraddha is very internal. And Acharyas focused on the rasa and Shraddha. They didn't care for dharma because it was naturally practiced by everybody. Why should I write something when there is no need only? Why our devotees send their children to psychiatrists and psychologists? Why there is the need? Why should we send to doctors? Why should we not depend on Krishna? We reject Varnashram, but we buy Apple, computers, which I am doing now here, sitting and giving lecture on that. Right? We depend on Krishna, but we need vaccination, which is done with so many demonic things. So therefore, Varnashram is as much as it is contaminated, still that is the best vehicle compared to capitalism, communism, socialism. Bhagavad Dharma is an internal journey. It is not, you need a material stability, and material stability, Varnashram is connected to matter, with Sharira and Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. And Bhagavatam Dharma is connected to Atma. So these are two integrated concepts. They are not separated. I think we will stop here and take the next subject.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Or we can take one last question.
Prabhuji, I continue that last question that I asked, so practical in practical life, if you want to know Swadharma, and when we contact astrologers who are famous or who are referred by devotees only, so still what they generally tell does not actually, it's not actually relevant with what is going on in our life.
So there again, astrologer is not, it takes many years. I said astrology is one aspect of it. How can he, after giving you 15 to 20 minutes or half an hour, decide your swadharma? No, not like that. It is not possible. He will give an indication, certain principle will give it to you. And based upon that principle, you have to use your common sense also. Therefore, there is the Pratyaksha Pramana. All the three Pramanas, whether when you read the Upavedas, anything for material, we need Pratyaksha Pramana. Anything which is beyond material, we need Shabda Pramana. If you want to buy a car, right, what do you need? We need Pratyaksha Pramana. That company exists. They're actually manufacturing car. You can't depend on faith. Faith comes afterwards in regards to matter, but in regards to our Atma, in regards to our Shraddha, in regards to the spiritual world, in regards to devotion, that requires Shraddha first, because it is beyond the senses and Prakriti. So therefore, Swadharma is not connected to Shraddha. Swadharma is connected to physical reality, the subtle reality, the Sukshma Sharira and Stula Sharira. It's possible to do it. We need to spend time. That could be a different session altogether. There is a discussion and then there is an individual interaction. Just like in the Vedas, I was talking to somebody who is learning Veda. It is so fascinating what they were saying. Vedas are taught by a teacher to one student. Every verse we repeat without explanation. We say, what is this? So this man who is learning Vedas is a top engineer. He said the difference between what we learn, the material science and the Vedic science is, the material science look for your intelligence. And the Vedas, through the process, they provide the intelligence. Buddhi also comes. Mattar smritir jnanam apanam cha. Krishna is being the master of the Vedas. It's interesting. He was talking about tongue. If your tongue is not clean for reciting the Vedas, it is so difficult. So there is Jiva Shuddhi happens. The Veda Purusha or Veda Mata, as you come in contact with her, slowly helps us to discover your tongue also, your Shabda, your Vani also. So this is, if I want to be an engineer, we spend so much of time, and we want to do self-discovery. How can one imitate astrologer do it? We are asking too much from them. So it has to be a journey. While you are doing your, at this stage we are doing more circumstantial duties, but that's okay. While doing our circumstantial duties of Artha Prapti, wherever you are, at least 10 minutes every day, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. People, if they give time to wonder, at some point of time they'll realize, okay, these are my core passion, even though I am doing this for Artha Prapti. And at some point of time, one may say, even though there is no money here, but now I made enough money, I want to do this to grow in my life.
Thank you,
So
Prabhuji.
we'll stop here and take the next subject, which is again very important and very interesting. Okay, so this is, freedom is not privilege, not gift, but character of everyone. One of the, I think in one of our talks we had discussed in regards to the Daiva and tragedy, right? The Greek philosopher considered that living entity is carried like a puppet. He has no control over his own action. He is forced by somebody else. And Arjuna also raised that kind of question. Atakyena prayoktayam papam charati purusha anishchanapi varshneya baladiva niyojita. Krishna, what is that force, even though I don't want to, makes me do this? Right? He asked that question. It is there in the Bhagavad Gita. So many times in our practical reality, we feel, we have no control over anything. We are forced by our own karma. There is some truth to this, right? When is the truth? In our circumstantial, in our situational reality. But again, we have to go back to the foundational reality. If you are so driven by our past, as people say, Arey, you cannot avoid your past, then we have to go to our foundational past. What is that foundational past? If you talk about my constitutional nature of being Aham Brahmasmi, for Vaishnavas, that I'm a servant of Narayan, I'm Krishna Das, right? So that is our constitutional nature. Whether you are a Vaishnava, whether you are a Shaivite, whether you are Shakta, the followers of Sanatana Dharma believe in something which is a constitutional conditioning. And what is that constitutional conditioning? The constitutional conditioning is that we are full of knowledge, full of bliss, and full of eternality. Mamai Vamsho Jivaloka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. In the 15th chapter, Krishna is boldly declaring this point. What is that? That my character, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loka, just like the sun rays and the sun, they are not separated from each other. The birth of the sun means the birth of the rays also. They are interconnected. Sun is Shaktiman and rays are Shakti. The fire and the heat, the fire and the spark. A Shakti cannot be without Shaktiman, and Shaktiman cannot be without Shakti. They simultaneously appear. This is the foundational principle of Sanatana Dharma. What is that? Constitutional conditioning. The conditional conditioning is what, my last lifetime was a cat, I was a pig, I was a dog, or I was a princess, or I was a prince, or I was a cricket player nowadays. What is that? That is my just little conditioning, 1,000 years. Compared to my eternal conditioning, what is this conditioning? So therefore, this conditioning, the circumstantial conditioning, the 1,000-year-old conditioning can be overcome by the power of constitutional conditioning. The process of overcoming the circumstantial conditioning is called as yoga, is called as yajna, right? Whether it is bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga, karma yoga, or the jnana yoga. Right? Therefore, what does Krishna say? Krishna says that api chetasya papebhya sarvebhya papa kritama. Focus on Bhagavad Gita. It is not the karma which causes pain to us. It is the ignorance which causes pain, which involves the ignorance of karma also, not right understanding. And Krishna says one who is situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge. When he is situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, then he can overcome all kinds of situation. It is so soothing and so powerful, right? So therefore, the purpose of human existence, ultimately the purpose of human existence is very clear. It's a personal emancipation. It is very personal emancipation. While creating the stable society, Samaj and Vyakti, Samaj requires external stability and Vyakti requires internal growth. If we understand this concept very clearly, there cannot be any confusion. So understanding this is our constitutional nature. What is it? I am full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality. And swatantrata, freedom. No, swatantrata is not simply a privilege. It is not a gift. It is not useless. It is my constitutional character. Even God cannot take it away. Please understand this. Unlike if you study the Abrahamic religion, sometimes some of our people, they say, oh no, why should we study about differences? No, we have to study the differences to understand what are the contribution of the great rishis in regards to what is Sanatana Dharma, and why there are certain faith who focus on time-bound emancipation. In Sanatana Dharma, it talks about the process of emancipation is an eternal reality. It is not that only this time you will be emancipated and then it will not happen. Doesn't happen like that. It is an eternal process. As long as Prakriti is there, as long as Jiva is there, and Jivas and Prakriti is eternal here, the process of emancipation is an eternal reality. Different living entities keep achieving perfection. Right? The process of achieving perfection is one time for one living entity, but the process itself is continuous for many, many living entities. Therefore, the Lord and the Shastras and the Lord's devotees, they continue to make different kinds of systems to help living entities to achieve perfection. It is an eternal process. Not like the Bible. Comparing Bible or Quran with Sanatana Dharma is undermining the profound concept given by the rishis. Because in the Abrahamic faith, only Jesus is qualified to liberate you. Only he is qualified. He is the chosen. It's very important to understand this one. He is a chosen son of God. Up until now, in the Old Testament, there was a concept of the Adam and Eve became envious of God. They were separated from God. What is that? That is called as original sin. Now then, your constitutional nature is to sin. Please understand. We say our conditional nature is to make mistakes. But they say it is your constitutional nature to make mistake. Therefore, the Lord sent a chosen one forever. But then the question raised here, what happened to those philosophers whom the Western world appreciate? Socrates, right? Aristotle, Plato. No. What happens to them? Because they came before Jesus Christ. What happened to those people? They do not follow Jesus Christ like all of us. I don't follow anything about Christianity. 0%. Why should I? If I want to speak about, forgiving, I'll follow Pandavas. Arjuna said, if they come with all the raised weapons, right? All the raised weapons to hit at me, I will not retaliate. Why do you want Jesus Christ for this? We have stories here. It doesn't make any sense for the followers of Sanatana Dharma telling the Christian stories, because they never tell your stories, right? So understand this very clearly, very important to understand. It's a comparative study. What they believe is their belief system. We have no problem. The followers of Sanatana Dharma are willing to accept their belief. Will they get emancipation? They can get emancipation also. If they follow it very nicely without causing any violence to anybody, deeply believe in Shraddha, that they will achieve perfection also, certain level of perfection. But we are talking about the principle of Sanatana Dharma here, that when somebody says you are constitutionally sinful and he has to come to save you, then what happens? Saving becomes the contract of a person. When the saving becomes the contract of a person, then your position, the position of the living entity, is made redundant. The position of living entity becomes useless. The concept of living entity being potentially Brahman, Ham Brahmasmi, is destroyed. The potential of the living entity being full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality is destroyed. All right? When that is destroyed, what happens? Then you have to wait for him to be taking us to another. And how long it takes? It's like a discount offer one time for only 10,000 years, whatever, 10,000. And once the dukan is closed, in the judgment day, those who are on the other side, faithless, and those who are faithful, what happens? Those who are faithful, they go eternally to hell. And those who are faithful, they'll go eternally to heaven. And those who are faithless, they will go eternally to hellish planet. And the creation is closed. Now, do you want to logically accept this principle? No. And therefore, when you bring Sanatan Dharma, whether it is Vyasa, whether it is Kapila, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Jaimini, whether it is Patanjali, whether it is Sankhya, right? The theistic Sankhya, part of the Vedas only. Other is also part of the Vedas, but it is atheistic Sankhya. What is their understanding? That ultimately a living entity has to walk the journey of perfection. And who does take the responsibility? Guru is not a contractor. Do not compare Guru to Jesus. Comparing any acharyas, Ramanuja, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka, Vishnu Swami, Prabhupada, right? Any other acharyas of any sampradaya, they are not equivalent to Jesus. They are the part of the flow of facilitating the living entities, giving them vidya of adhyatma, so that every living entity practices his yoga, puts his effort, accepts the grace and mercy given by that Guru, waits for the grace of God, and his endeavor, Guru's Krupa and God's grace and the time factor, he or she will achieve perfection. Your word, I will believe in God, does not take you to perfection. That is dharma pragya, or I would say dharma samvedana. I believe in God. No, there has to be knowledge of dharma, and there has to be kriya. And therefore for Krishna, unless we experience it, like that Vedic student was telling, quoting the story of Nachiket, beautiful story. Nachiket, when he came to Yamaraj, he asked about everything connected to emancipation, mukti, amritatva. Yamaraj told him at one point of time, he said, my dear child, there is a limitation for explanation, because explanation can never be experienced. Shabda has a seema. Sabda has to become sakshatkar, and that sakshatkar will come to you. Don't become so hasty. Right? Bali Maharaj was a grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. Lord Narsimhadev told Prahlad, 21 generation will be liberated. In very Bhagavatam next canto, why Bali Maharaj had to go through his own experience? I always ask this question to children. You love Krishna and Krishna comes to you. And so you know what? You don't have to appear for any exam. You don't have to read any textbooks. You don't have to do any experience of going through of any school or college. I'll give you the degree. I'll give you the knowledge. Will you take it? The sensible children, I have told many times, and so-called, progressive devotees, they say, yeah, why not? But the sensible children said, Prabhuji, there is no experience only. Why should I take it? Where is my experience? That is the difference between the Sanatan Dharma concept and Abrahamic faith. This is there in the Mahabharata when Yudhishthira Maharaj was in the forest. Krishna came with Balramji, Satyaki. And that day Balramji was in good mood. Right? He had changed his team. Otherwise, he's always super transcendental secularist, focusing on the Kauravas only. Always supporting the Kauravas. Wanting to marry Subhadra to Duryodhan. You can imagine. Right? Daddy was, and he chastised Arjuna, Yudhishthira also in the peace, before the peace message. But here he was different. He came. Satyaki, Krishna, Balramji, and some other Yadavas came. They told Yudhishthira, enough of this now. You should not be here in this forest. You come with us. You all come and stay in Dwarka. And after staying in Dwarka, we will give our army. You want to fight, you go and fight. You want to stay here, you stay here. But enough of this forest. Krishna did not speak anything. And what does Yudhishthira say? It's very important to understand this principle. Yudhishthira said, my dear Balramji and Satyaki, I will earn it. I will earn it. And you know what Krishna does? Krishna looks at his brother and Satyaki. I told you before only, he will not take anything freely. So Lord was very happy with Yudhishthira Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj experienced that. So that is the beauty. Every living entity has to experience their journey. When we say karuna, compassion, grace, magnanimity, does not mean it cancels the journey. Why would they cancel the journey? Because these great acharyas, the great avatars know the potential of the living entity. In the Christianity, there is no potential in the living entity. They are dead. So Jesus has to drag them to perfection. So whether it is right or wrong, from their perspective, they can achieve perfection. But from the Sanatan Dharma's perspective, I would never want to achieve this kind of perfection. There is no question of becoming anywhere close to non-Vedic. Therefore, somebody asked Prabhupada, which is better, to be in the house of the Vedas, worshipping Devata like Shakti, or worshipping Jesus? Instantly said, it is anytime better to be part of the house of the Vedas, because it is full of knowledge, full of eternality. And that increases Purushartha. It increases the valor of the living entities. The living entity starts evolving in understanding the concept of full of knowledge, full of bliss, and full of eternality. The knowledge, we can gain knowledge. Nowadays, gaining knowledge is very easy. Right? I can speak on any subject. Anatomy, it doesn't take 8 days. I don't have to do any contest also. There are so many softwares. One screen here, one screen here, one screen here, and just say as if I'm speaking. No big deal. If you want to speak on Vedas, at least the information of the Vedas, we do it. Absolutely no problem. But there is a huge gap between information and sakshatkar. And sakshatkar is always individualistic. How somebody else chants Hare Krishna mantra can never become my experience. You understand? That will never. My experience is my experience. I need to eat Krishna Prasad. My Guru ate Krishna Prasad. I'll say, wow. And I will experience he eating the Prasad. But I will not experience the Prasad myself. I have to eat that Prasad. So therefore, the individual journey, what Sanatan Dharma offers, what Gita offers to Arjuna, to the Pandavas, they had to go through this. only when they went through this, in that sadhana itself, when we say sadhana and sadhya are not different, now it makes sense, right? Who does the sadhana? Krishna will not fight for Arjuna. This is the principle of he knowing very well Arjuna has the potential. Arjuna has the capacity as a Kshatriya. Let him put his 100%. Then with that 100%, whatever less is there, I will add 1%. Right? Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita focuses more on Purushartha with the foundation of Daiva. And what is the foundation of Daiva? The foundation of Daiva is our Man, Buddhi, Ahankar limited one. But beyond that foundation, there is a foundation of full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality. What is that full? When we say full, why do we need anything from outside? Somebody else taking my contract. Then why do I need Guru then? Why do we need a parampara? We need Guru and parampara to remind me about my constitutional nature. And because the culture of Sanatan Dharma is, he or she gives all the credit to Guru and Krishna. And the Guru, what do? They help us to stand on our feet. Because unless I experience it, you means you alone. Mukti is not group. Dharma is group. Mukti is always singular to one person. Therefore, one person going to the ultimate perfection is possible. A family going together, difficult. Nowadays it is more difficult. Father is chanting Hare Krishna, son is chanting Holy. Right. And father wants to chant 64 rounds, then somebody else wants to chant 4 rounds. There is a conflict. The father wants to go back to God at this lifetime only, and wife cooks for him for today's meal, or vice versa. It could happen like that also. And imagine the entire colony. Everybody simultaneously. Everybody can simultaneously eat together. That also is not possible. And if you want rice, somebody wants pulav rice. In regards to eating also, there is so much of, if there is a Punjabi wife and a Keralite husband, the Keralite husband wants dahi rice, the Punjabi wife parota and dahi. So in regards to simple physical things, we are not united. What to speak of united in Mukti? Not possible. It's a personal journey. A person achieves Mukti. Right? There are stories where Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, the entire Ayodhya Vasis, that means those living in it came there together. But within that also, at least when Lord Rama was living in that world, the Praja of Lord Ramachandra behaved in such a way that they were not willing to, they were causing conflict. So therefore, this brilliant understanding of Sanatan Dharma, full of knowledge, full of bliss, and full of eternality, is so profound. It is so profound that when we take that understanding and take the grace of Guru, not give him the contract of our perfection. Somebody recently wrote to me, very nice offering. They said nowadays people are making their Guru like Sachin Tendulkar. He coming to your house and eating prasad doesn't make you perfect. You become Sachin Tendulkar yourself. You play your game. You score. You experience ball hitting you. I remember, yesterday I was able to visit the samadhi of Pejar Swamiji. And Pejar Swamiji had inaugurated Radhanath Swami's book called as Journey Home in Kannada. And I was fortunate enough to translate his Kannada into English. And he made a very interesting point. It was called as Journey Home. And he began by his talk. He said, Adu avara pravasa. That means it's his journey. And he is giving us the inspiration to have your journey. So it's a very, very profound and very clear. So therefore, he cannot chant for you. He inspired people to take to the path of spirituality. When you chant, when you perform your sadhana, according to your capacity, according to your body, according to your mind, buddhi and ahankar, then what does it do? The growth happens properly. Therefore, individual journey is like parikrama, not like march past. Because march past is not a daily reality. Army soldiers, they are not 24 hours, sleeping at the same time. Rap दिशा सब लोग साथ में बेड पे जाते हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता. Even if they do that, not everybody will have a immediate, will go to sleep. Everybody has their own timing. Even if the lights are switched off at 9:30. And we have seen in the schools, in the hostels, even in the ashram. Even if you switch off the lights, yes, that is good to switch off, right? But still, some have a pitta prakriti, they will think. Some have vata prakriti, before they think they are snoring only. Rising in the morning, if your pitta constitute, when you rise in the morning, you immediately get up, no problem only. But if you're kapha prakriti, you're looking, you're intoxicated, your eyes are not opening only. So then those who are pitta prakriti, they get up early, they are called as very sincere practitioners. And kapha prakriti, they take longer time, they are called as not so sincere. But that has nothing to do with their sincerity, that has to do with their body, they need more time. Right? So therefore, parikrama means what? I take my time. Somebody, young-bodied people, enthusiastic people can do Govardhan parikrama in 3 hours, 40 minutes, almost like marathon only. Right? Almost running. 1 year we did like that. In 4 hours, 4 of us. Now my knee is broken. I will not do only. I will go by rickshaw. Maybe I'll walk a little bit. And there is 80-year-old lady. You can't go and tell 80-year-old boy, oh Mataji, aap kitne insincere ho? Why can't you do parikrama fast? You don't want to go back to God at swift. No, she will take her own sweet time. And that is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. Everybody walk in their own space according to their capacity, with the foundational principle that I want to achieve, in my constitutional nature, my conditional nature. And in this way, and Krishna gives us enough space. It is not 10,000 years. It is not 20,000 years. It is not Bible. If you don't achieve perfection till this Kali Yuga also, that means we are a little crazy. But even if they don't achieve, they are not lost case. There is millions of creation. In that millions of creation, still they'll always have the chance of perfection because they are potentially perfect only, full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality. And therefore Krishna had the courage. He could have scared Arjuna. This is the only chance you have to serve me. He had the courage to speak. That is the greatest parenting. That is the greatest teaching. I don't see many of us, we say this. We say, no ichha, just follow what your teacher said. Just follow your temple president says. Just follow what your parents say. Dam nahi hamare mein, dam. And Krishna has the courage to say that, knowing very well Arjuna could misuse it. Because compassion, bhoot, the ghost of compassion was still, hovering in Arjuna's brain. Oh, compassionate to Guru, compassionate to Dronacharya, martial teacher, compassionate to his grandfather. He could have taken that path of saying, Krishna, you know what you told me, Gita, I understand, but I don't want to follow whatever you say. And Krishna would have not cursed Arjuna because Arjuna is cursing himself. And even that curse is also time bound only. Shapa is not eternal reality for Jiva. So therefore, Nobody can condemn Jiva for eternal condemnation, because that is not the nature of Jiva. Therefore, what did Krishna tell Arjuna? He said, Yathechasi tatha kuru. Now you decide. If you want to speak, if you want to hear, I will speak the Gita once again. But the choice is yours, because the choice can never be the choice of God when the living entity, being full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality, the living entity only has to choose. Right? And Arjuna at least verbally accepted. Nasto moha smritir labdva tvat prasadat mayachyuta. And for next 9 days, he acted as if he was just before the Bhagavad Gita only. Knowledge came, but the implementation did not happen. He still was confused, not in regards to understanding, but in regards to implementation. And on the third day, Krishna came down. To kill Bhishma, no, to perform Rangamancha, drama kiya Bhagwan hai. Marna to Arjun ko hi tha, Arjun only had to kill. And Arjuna begged, no, I will. And again, 3 days. Again, Arjuna fought. Arjuna up until 9 days was like Manmohan Singh only. No surgical strike. Again, Krishna came. The government changed. Right, on the 10th day, on the 9th of the 10th day, again Arjuna said, Krishna, how can I do this? So what did Krishna tell? He spoke to him. He gave the knowledge. He did not curse. He did not impose. He said, Arjuna, you don't have a choice only. You choose between dharma or your relationship. But you don't have to break your relationship. But you cannot do without shooting arrows. Krishna did not shoot arrows. Arjuna only had to experience crying. Arjuna only had to experience the pain of shooting arrows in the body of his great-grandfather Bhishmadev. Right? And Bhishmadev was happy to be shot by Arjuna. And that didn't stop there. When Dronacharya came, again Arjuna went through a lot of conflict. That is a beautiful journey of a living entity. Right? When Krishna told Arjuna, my dear Yudhishthir, he told Yudhishthir, you know what? You have to bring down Dronacharya only through lie. You choose. Now I tell you what to do, but the consequence is also yours, because Arjuna, Yudhishthira had to see the hell. That is Vyasa's Vani. But because he was God conscious, Krishna conscious, he was not bewildered by seeing hell. He said, okay, if you put your finger in the fire, it doesn't matter who is putting the finger in the fire. For whatever reason, for lighting up a cigar or lighting of a agarbatti. Whether it is agarbatti produced with cow gobar, or the cycle brand or sandalwood agarbatti. Right? The fire, the nature of fire is neutral. The nature of consequences is also neutral. But the spiritual knowledge helps you to deal with that consequences. And Krishna told Yudhishthira, this is the only way. And who has to say? More than anybody else, Dronacharya will only believe. He had great fascination for Arjuna's valor, but he had great trust in Yudhishthira Maharaj's transparency. Right? And Yudhishthira spoke the lie. And Arjuna had an outburst after the death of Dronacharya. He chastised Krishna in the form of Lord Ramachandra for killing Vali from behind. Emotional outburst. You have behaved like that Ramchandra who killed Vali from behind. And Krishna would have resigned. Hey, come on. Because the Lord understands the dynamics of relationships. In relationship, there will be gali. But only gali, then there is a problem. Only if somebody is feeding you only pickle, I love you and pickle. I love you a pickle. Or I love you and only the fridge mein rakha hua basundi every day. No, you want a full meal. Right? So in relationship with Krishna did not mind. Arjuna said, how can you do like this? He said, you are so obsessed with kingdom. complete false. You are obsessed with victory, and for that, what you have done, you have killed a Brahmana, you killed your teacher. Hell with you. And Yudhishthira takes words sometimes seriously. So Bhima went wild with Arjuna. He said, what the hell are you talking? You are supporting the enemies. Krishna did not say everything is breaking now. How can they speak like this? I came from the spiritual world to teach, and my own people are behaving like this. The Lord is Krishna is very cool. I said, unka choice hai. And then eventually they reconciled again. Right? So that journey, when the children, when they told me, and asked this question to many people, you try, those who have not attended this seminar, ask this question, who are very staunchly believe in Sarva Dharma and Paritaji, ask this question. If Krishna, if there is a choice between you working hard and Krishna making everything for you, which one will you choose? Unfortunately, most of them say, no, why should I? Like the Telugu movie of Prahlad Maharaj, everything is cooked on its own. All the food is cooked. People want that. But if you ask a common sense children, they will say, no. I would never want that to happen. If a large stadium puts my name, by paying them some money, he cracked 3 centuries. They'll say, I don't want, I want to play, even if I go out for 1 run, it is my experience. Why should I play like that only? They will not do that. Because that is the core character of the living entities, to experience their journey, their life. Why? Because that is their constitutional nature, and that is how Krishna stops the Bhagavad Gita so that Arjuna can walk his journey. And Arjuna walked his journey after the battlefield was over, after the war was over. When Arjuna was strolling with Krishna, Arjuna asked this question to Krishna, Krishna, can you speak the Bhagavad Gita once again? Because I forgot, something like that he said. So Arjuna embraced Krishna embraced Arjuna and chastised him. Ye durbuddhi, mandabuddhi Arjun. I spoke it in my spirit, inspired, right? But you have not remembered all that. I will speak to you again, but not the Gita. So then Krishna spoke entire knowledge called as Anugita, following in the footsteps of Bhagavad Gita, which is more than 1400 to 1600 verses. Right? We can't handle this Gita only. Right? And Arjuna also did not. So therefore, Krishna spoke Anugita. It's a brilliant. There it comes the whole explanation of Janak Maharaj, his character as a karma yogi. So therefore, there is no dearth of knowledge giving as long as living entity is ready. If the living entity is not ready, the knowledge will come at some point of time. The living entity has to take. Therefore, Krishna has no rush. He's not rushing. He's desperate in spirit, but technically he's not. He'll always tell all the living entity, "Tumchi ichha hai, aapki ichha hai. Khana hai to khao." In our time, the mothers were like Krishna. This is the food. If you want to eat, eat. If you don't want to eat, then you remain hungry. Nowadays, mothers have become like Jesus Christ. No, they have taken the contract of feeding them, giving them what they want. So just see the difference between being a Jesus Christ kind of psychology and being Krishna kind of psychology. And the kind of Krishna psychology is fascinating, profound, and hope-giving. And then you take your own time. Walk your own speed. Take 20 days to walk Govardhan Parikrama. Chalega, because at least you are completing the Parikrama. And somebody will say, "Arey, we have dumb hai. Hum 3.5 घंटे में कर रहे हैं, वो 3.5 घंटे में करें." But there will be somebody, they want to do Parikrama, they can do helicopter Parikrama also within 3 minutes. No, 3 minutes में हो जाएगा. Will you get some benefit? According to their nature, their disposition, at least they came to Govardhan. Some benefit will certainly be given to them in the journey of perfection, not necessarily perfection. We'll stop here. Thank you for your kind attention for all these 10 sessions. If you have any questions, we can take few questions.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you very much. So as you said that it is our responsibility, it's an individual journey. However, we sometimes hear that our endeavors may not be sufficient enough to take us back to Godhead, and we need the grace of Guru and the Lord. So does it mean that it is direction, inspiration? Is that the right understanding of that?
That has to be very clear again, that the Guru will not drag you the way we understand. Dragging you means he will discipline you. Dragging means he will give you knowledge. Dragging means he will bring the food in your mouth also. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy in regards to modern Kali Yuga is putting the ghas in your mouth. लेकिन चबाना तो आपका ही काम है ना. आप थूक दोगे तो, if you spit it out. So you have reduced the endeavor, but the endeavor has not stopped. Right?
Yes,
The cooking will be done by him. Offering the plate is done by him. Feeding is also done by him. But biting, how can he do for you? You have to bite yourself. You can't. The child cannot tell mommy, eat for my behalf only. You enjoy the food so that I will also enjoy. The child cannot say, mommy, you drink the medicine, because you love me so much, you take the contract. Some mummies will do that also. No, but no. Lord Chaitanya never stopped your journey, but he minimized the distance of the journey. But the distance will be there. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense only from the perspective of Shastra, the concept of yoga, the concept of sadhana.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Arunaji, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, you were saying about how in our life for celebrations, most of the times we are focusing on the event than on the other part. I didn't understand what is the other thing, Prabhu. And can you please explain as to how any celebration should be done in the right way?
Oh, that's about marriage, I think we discussed, right? We are focusing on the event rather than...
Let's assume I planned for Satyanarayan Puja. So what should be the right way of doing it? Because yes, there will be so much of distractions in terms of inviting people, catering for food, or cooking prasadam and decoration and all that. So is that wrong place that we put energy? Should the focus be only on inviting the Brahmana and giving dakshina to him and being mindful while doing the puja?
Thank you for asking that question. Just like when people have to do certain samskaras, right? If you're doing a samskar, if you're doing Upanan samskar, if you're doing, the Vidyadan samskar, if you're doing somebody's Antyakriya samskar, so who is the focus? The focus is the person who is getting the samskar. And based upon that person, who are the people who are connected to that living entity? Very close family members who are willing to positively help in the function, right? If it becomes an event, then management becomes of the essence and the samskaras become secondary. People are talking about it was a great event, everybody got to it nicely, everything went on time. In timing, what started the food at the right time, guests were invited, but there was so much distraction in regards to samskara itself. So therefore, when you are inviting the deities in your home, I suggest this to devotees. When you are inviting the deities, you are not inviting deities to show to outsiders. During the deity welcome, just invite few people. You take part in the entire celebration taking rather than organizing the celebration. Doesn't make sense. In the evening, when the deities are dressed very nicely, you can create an excitement. The altars are closed, kirtan is going on, and the Lord is seen by everybody simultaneously. That excitement is there. Otherwise, it is all about organization rather than sanskara. Same thing with marriage also. The the couple are supposed to take the vows. They have to hear the samskaras. And if they are not involved, they are looking at if this friend or came or that friend came or not. They are not coming on the time. This is the problem with followers of Sanatana Dharma. They neglect the concept of muhurta. They neglect the concept of right timing, pani grahana, mangalya dharanam, all this. These are such a profound concept, and they are time bound. Even though you can make a mistake in this lifetime, next lifetime you can do once again, but there it becomes very important. You can't wait. My friend did not come, she'll feel very bad, I have to wait. Namakaran samskar. Sometimes people want their friends to give name to their children. Kanyadan. Kanyadan is done by the parents only, and those who don't have daughter, they can join with that family. You don't make your daughter the Kanyadan done by somebody else. Even your guru cannot do that. Guru gives Ashirwad, but Kanyadan is done by the parents only. And if a Grahastha Guru wants to experience doing Kanyadan, he joins the parents. He doesn't know on behalf of the parents. He cannot. So these are the profound concepts are there in Sanatana Dharma. And therefore, celebration is there. But celebration comes after the samskaras done properly. Where people are willing to listen. When you go, when I went first time, after many years to marriage, I was very disappointed to see that when the samskara is going on, people are drinking. They're not drinking nowadays. People, even some big people I heard, even some of the best pious business people, they have a food stall. And the priest is doing all the samskara. They are trying to make it as orchestra-centric. And I'll not name the community because that will be community-centric. They're properly dressed like traditionally, going to a pan puri stall, and in the puri, instead of putting that puri water, they put liquor. The pan puri wala knows who is coming, who these people are. They're dressed traditionally. No? And therefore somebody said most Hindus don't deserve to be Hindus. They do not understand the distinction between whom to appreciate. How the hell Bollywood can be part of marriage sanskar? If there are good songs which are deep philosophically, wherever it comes, it's okay. Right? There are good songs compiled by people with intelligence, but happen to be in the Bollywood. So the prasanga becomes very important. But if the ego becomes important, ignorance becomes important, then the function happens. You get the good credit for managing the event, but the sanskara is evaded. That's very important. Same things. Antim samskara also. Antim sanskara is not for the family members to see the dead body. Oh, I have to wait. The child is calling and telling the parent. We discussed this. Wait, I have to come from America. No. Whoever is there, the closest relatives, has to offer that body to Agni. Cannot wait more than particular hours. That is the contribution of that living entity last time. Those who are attending, please, don't be sentimental in this regard. You tell your children, whoever is the closest, let my dead body be burned within 3 to 6 hours. Good for that soul. And nothing happens by saying, what will you see? Agar bachcha agar dekhega to karega kya ho? Right? What good will he do? Like in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna told Krishna, I want to see. No? I want to see, bring my chariot between the two forces. So Krishna wanted to tell Arjuna, one Acharya Vedanta Deshik explains, hey, idiot, what will you see? What will happen by you seeing? I seeing will happen something. तुम्हारे दृष्टि में क्या है? तुम्हारे दृष्टि में your दृष्टि will cause you bewilderment only. So better you just follow your duty And Krishna wanted to tell Arjuna what happens when you see. And he directly brought between Dronacharya and Bhishma Deva. So what happened? Arjuna became a youth. Arjuna developed contamination, kalmash, klaibyam, murcha, sab kuch ho gaya. So then Krishna had to give him a different vision. This may, and you can only tell this when people are dead. That time you can't tell their family. They'll say, no, my son has to come. We have to wait. There is no question only. There you can't tell because it's full of sentiments. Here I can say anything, no, because it is important. I have told my friend, if I die, nobody is there. कोई तो जला दो बस 3 घंटे में खत्म करो. At least हमारा शरीर तो fresh offer होने दो भगवान के लिए. That is Agni Narayan offering to the Lord. That is the last offering. A rotten body offering to Agni, already rotten, eating all chemical food, right? On top of that, you are making that body wait for so many hours. Just see how far we go away from the traditional Shastri concept and create our own Shastra. No? Muhurta is important. 11:30 means that is the most important timing. But the bride is not ready, bridegroom is not ready, and then this person has not come, that person has come. 11:34 ka 4:34 ho jata. So why will the marriage function properly then? Because samskar hi nahi hua hai. That samskar has not happened. So naturally, all this combination with limited understanding of marriage creates fiasco. But the timing becomes so important. And along with that, knowledge is there. If you know the timing, the knowledge is there, the understanding is there. Thank you for that question.
Thank you very
Now
much.
you understood what to do.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Can we take one more question?
Yeah.
So this is our friend Madhav.
Haribol, gone through. Thank you for that wonderful class. But in sync with that same question, on a personal level, every individual is following different responsibilities, as a son to their parents or as a professional to whoever. But then in those situations when sometimes you are, as per society or as per expectations from the respective people, you are not doing what your parent or your profession or society deems necessary for you. But it is not syncing with you. For instance, Arjuna didn't feel it was right for him to, kill his own family members, but he had Krishna to guide him and tell him that this is your duty. So in a similar way, if a parent is expecting you to do certain responsibilities, for instance, if I can say, get married or, do this or do that, but if it is not matching with you, or for instance, let's say someone is married, and there are certain, how does one, because we get lost in all these responsibilities, how does one refocus on energizing what is right for them, respecting their other responsibilities?
Yeah, that conflict, again, that conflict does create. Now recently the government made the girls' marriage able age 21. All the liberal girls are happy. Oh, but they're anyway not getting married before 24, 25. That did not make any difference. But in the villages, hundreds of villages are there where it was required for them, right? And they would manage properly. So when the government gets involved in your personal life, when you should marry, when you should not marry, that creates a difficulty, that creates a trouble, that gives a challenge. Like in New Jersey, it's a stronghold of the Democrats. And the Democrat candidate spoke about the parents should not be involved in the children's education. It's the state which is taking the responsibility. He lost the election. That means it's a good thing, because till now the family understand it is our responsibility. Similarly, you go deeper. The parents again facilitate asking somebody like you about marriage based upon time. They feel, okay, this is the biological reality at the age of 21, 24, 25, 30, get married. So They may say, I acknowledge the need for me to get married, but the purpose of marriage is not simply the biological need, also that compatibility. And I don't find that. So if that conversation happens between the parents and the person who is into that situation, so there will be some anxiety. As I said, the world is not, even if you study everything and understand everything, there will be something unfulfillment experienced by the parent or the child. So the parents, if they are forceful, they have the greater power to convince the boy or a girl. The girl may say, okay, what can I do? I will marry now, because to fulfill their desire. So the pain will be there that I got married when I was not ready. And she may adjust also. Or the parents may have the pain, our child is not marrying only at the right time. And when he or she gets married, they'll have the pain, he spent so many years without getting married. So that is also part of life only, along with the journey where one feels unfulfilled. Therefore, when there is a discussion and we have the courage to say, the parents have to give proper understanding, and they have to tell the child or a daughter, now yatachasi tatakuru. But if they say, what? Yatachasi, there is non-existent like this. We discussed authoritarian. I choose, you decide. Means I decide and you have to follow that. Like recently in one village, one girl got married, stayed with her husband. The brother and mother came because they didn't want this marriage to happen. The mother herself was involved in killing her own daughter. They slaughtered their daughter. They were about to kill the son-in-law also. And they felt satisfied ki humne, we were willing to do anything to maintain the dignity of our daughter. Just imagine such an obsession about their biological relationship. If you say you don't agree with that, you have right to not to agree. You can tell your daughter, look, you married somebody which is not according to our understanding. So you cut the relationship with you. But they cannot cut her. And people cannot say, how can they cut relationship? They have a choice, just like she has the choice to marry somebody. Why can't we allow that also? When we talk about freedom, just like that, the girl has the choice not to, she has broken the relationship with the parents. Right? And some parents may choose, we will call them back, we will manage that. I would suggest that. But there are some parents, they say, no, we know what will happen with this marriage. And they're right also. So they choose to cut the relationship. So why should we question their decision? So therefore, it is very important to understand, decisions are very dynamic, very individualistic. Society will talk about it if you're not married at the right time. And because of the societal pressure, if you fall for it, then you're married the society, not the compatible girl. Very simple.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for that very beautiful explanation about how we all experience freedom at all levels. There are questions, but there is paucity of time. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for facilitating our journey of living, evolving, and leaving. We have personally understood the Gita and the Bhagavatam at a deeper level, and now we find Krishna more fascinating, and our respect for Guru and our Shastras have definitely multiplied. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Our deepest gratitude to you, and please accept our humble obeisances for all that you did for us. Thank you, participants, for being committed over the last 9 sessions. Close to 15 hours we were together, and let's continue this journey evolving. With these words, bid goodbye and Hare Krishna. We'll meet again on Tuesday on Clubhouse at 7 o'clock to discuss the war of Mahabharata. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.